Welcome Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces to your week ahead astrology forecast for the week of September 27th through October 3rd, 2023. We're doing things a little bit differently now on the channel. I am combining, not condensing, I am combining these 3 videos that I would normally release on Wednesdays into one video. Because I noticed that the big stuff is actually I just keep repeating it over and over again. So instead of repeating it, I'm going to do the big stuff in the beginning all at once, and then I will break things down into Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces specifics, and in those sections I will also break everything down into the decans. I'm going to leave the timestamps below in the comment section, in the description box, so that you can fast forward to the zodiac sign that relates to you or that you want to hear about. Let's start with the big stuff though. Basically the charts of the week, like what's happening this week in astrology. The big stuff. Well, I can't overlook the fact that on September 29th there is a full moon. There's a full moon in Aries, and that means that it's our release of our anger, our frustration, and our defensiveness, and also our ability, once we release those things with compassion, because hey, you know what? We all get angry. We all get angry. That doesn't make us bad or evil. We all get angry. We all get frustrated. Sometimes we punch a freaking wall. That's what it is. And a lot of this anger might actually be relieved in sexual tension. It may be the root of our anger, is that there might be some sexual frustration going on. And I'll tell you why I think that. But this full moon in Aries on September 29th, it happens between 5 and 6 degrees Aries, with the sun in opposition between 5 and 6 degrees Libra, is really an opportunity for us to release. That's what full moons are about, release. And what are the emotions that are associated with Aries? Anger, frustration, conviction sometimes. So conviction isn't really an emotion. So it's time for us to purge that so we can get to those things, those underlying things underneath. And how do I know what those are? Well, I look to what's aspecting the moon during the full moon. And there's not any major aspects, but there are some subtle aspects. There are minor aspects that I think are very important. So let me talk to you about them. We have the moon, while it's at fullest, semi-square to Uranus. And we have the sun, while the moon is at its fullest, semi-square to Venus. A semi-square is, I like the look of it. It looks like this. That's the symbol for it. It looks like you're being poked. And it's like a poke. It's like something's nagging you. Something's nagging me. And the underlying tension of that full moon, that anger, that frustration, is our desire to be individual, our unique and authentic selves. And what has kept us from that, making us angrier, or maybe our anger and frustration or excessive personal judgment are getting in the way of that. And that frustration then is built on top of that. We got to release that to get to the good stuff underneath, which is we want to be uniquely ourselves. There's almost this compulsive need for change. Because we know intuitively, remember the moon is intuition, intuitively we know we need to shift something, and that's why we're getting so angry all the time. There's a need for a shift here in who we are and how we express ourselves, or who we are allowing ourselves to be. And then on the other side of things, we have the sun, which is semi-square to Venus. And the sun semi-square to Venus is like, oh, it's starting to get to me that I don't feel the same pleasure or desire for the same things. Like they're just not revving me up the way that they used to. So that's also an energy that is calling for change. I need things to get some spice. Come and spice things up a little bit. So a lot of this energy, underlying energy to this anger and frustration we've been experiencing, is not being allowed to express our authentic selves. And that's why so many things have dulled. We don't taste things the same way as we used to, because we need a change. And sometimes we just need a break from ourselves to enjoy ourselves again. But there's this sense of things have gotten too rote, too routine. The underlying energy is also Venus is square to Uranus, and she is sextile to Mars. So that's a very sexual energy. It's a very something's changing and shifting about our desires, our sexual presentation, about what we want, what we're attracted to. There is a shift here, and it could be a wonderful way to get our chutzpah back, to get our energy back, by expelling all of that toxic emotion and anger, frustration, defensiveness, getting it out of the way can actually help us find the real person underneath again, both ourselves and, if we're in an intimate partnership, them too. It's like sometimes we just need to get mad at each other. Sometimes we just need that catharsis to clear the air. And I know that this full moon in Aries, 29th, but 28th, 29th, and 30th, especially those days, will be very volatile because it's almost needed. It's necessary. So there are other things going on. All week long, we have Mercury in opposition to Neptune. But we also, by the 30th, have Mercury in a grand trine with Pluto and Uranus. So you have Mercury grand trine, Pluto and Uranus, while Mercury is in opposition to Neptune. This means in some ways we're receiving very dynamic energy or technology that will change things. We're receiving little tidbits about it, but we're not wise enough to really comprehend it. A lot of things are really foggy, unclear, and misrepresented. So it's something we should be very wary about, especially with all this new technology that's coming out. It may be overhyped. We also have this. We also have Venus very active this week because she is sextile to Mars, square to Uranus, and trine to Chiron. And the trine to Chiron is a very stabilizing energy. It speaks of wisdom and growing up and maturing and finding a tranquility with the challenges that you've experienced. So it's almost like maybe Venus, our desires are changing and we want something different and we're revved up for it because we know better now. Because now we're on the other side of something and we know that we've changed, and that's why our desires are changing. So really, especially in intimate partnerships, to make them last long term, in this climate, the best thing to do is give your partner space and allow them to explore and feel their independence and their authenticity. Because to try to keep them in the mold that you started out with them in is going to not only break them, no, it'll help them break out of their cocoon faster, but you won't be with them. It'll break the relationship. We all need now to respect each other's coming out of the cocoon of the fact that we've grown up from what we've experienced over these past couple of years, and we're changed and we're not the same person. This could also be very sexy energy because, hey, let's get reattracted or reacquainted to each other. But if you try to keep things the same, shit's gonna break. I'm just letting you know. We also have Mars being conjunct to the South Node all week, which means we're kind of leaning more back. We're leaning more on doing things the way that's comfortable, taking action the way that is comfortable. And in some ways, guys, maybe we need to, because maybe things have gotten a little bit out of fucking hand and we need a little bit of a break. So we should be leaning on what we know we're good at right now. It's not going to last for a long time, but right now, over the next couple of weeks, I think it might be important to us. So let's break things into zodiac sign specific information. Those timestamps are below. I'm going to start with Capricorn. So Capricorn, what's going on in the zodiac sign of Capricorn? Pluto. Pluto's at 27 degrees Capricorn, which means if you're born between, say, January 12th and the 22nd, your natal suns are conjunct to Pluto. So you're going through very dynamic changes in your life since last year, over the next couple of years, definitely into next year. These are major shifts in your life, your personality, who you used to be versus who you are now. You'll see it. You'll feel these changes. Pluto is not subtle. What is Saturn doing? Your ruling dignitary is almost like the seasoning, like the backdrop seasoning of your life. So what is that doing? Well, Saturn is virtually predominantly unaspected this week, though it is in a semi-square. It is in a semi-square to Chiron. So it's not totally unaspected. But as Saturn has retrograded all the way back to the beginning degrees of Pisces, that has weakened. That semi-square to Chiron has weakened, though it does still exist. And if you go out to about a 10-degree orb, by the end of this week, Saturn is going to be trine Mars conjunct the South Node, and it is going to be in opposition to Venus. So maybe in some ways we're going to start to see how I don't know, how maybe leaning on our comfort zones and the way that we've always done things has restricted our financial growth and abundance, or we're trying to pull in more discipline here. And we're starting to go back to, hey, what I know I'm good at, because even though I want to be innovative, sometimes I'm not actually ready for it in that I don't have all the information that I need. So go back to what you know so that you can find solid ground again. It's that kind of energy. And that's okay. Sometimes we need to take a couple steps back to be able to move forward. It's kind of required. So let's go into the decans. If you know that your natal sun is between 0 and 9 degrees Capricorn, which correlates to birthdays, basically Capricorn, December Capricorns, between December 22nd and the 31st, this is you. This is you guys. Your natal suns are in a long-term sextile to Saturn, so it's not like today, tomorrow, or this week. It's over the next the course of the year this aspect will be true for you. So over the course of the year, there will be growth and development in your career, in what you build out into the world, and who you are, and even taking more leadership roles and having more, being more self-possessed and having more authority over your own life. This week, your natal suns are also square to the sun all week long, which can cause some headbutting with other egos, heightened egotism, as well as some kind of conflicts with self-esteem can come into that. Now, this is especially going to be volatile for you during the full moon, because the full moon's in Aries and it's already freaking volatile. So 28th, 29th, and 30th, because your natal suns are also going to be square this full moon and square the sun all week, understand that this may be a popping off time for you, that you are more likely to act in anger or impulsivity, get frustrated and get angry. So it is definitely time for you to learn some compassion with yourself, so that other people will show it to you when it's not easiest for you to be the best of yourself. Just an FYI, but it's also going to allow you this catharsis, right? This release of those angry, frustrating, pent-up energies. And it is a very powerful time for you guys to manifest. Check out my video, Manifesting with a Fire Moon, or a moon when it's in the fire sign. I think that will help you a lot. Put some strategies or systems into place for manifesting effectively. Let's go on to Capricorn 2s. So Capricorn 2s, your natal suns are somewhere between, if your natal suns are between 10 and 19 degrees Capricorn, it is in the second decan of Capricorn. You guys are Capricorn 2s. This correlates to birthdays between about January 1st to January 11th. In and around those dates. Your natal suns are semi-square to Saturn, which means you could feel some sort of pressure when it comes to your career or becoming more mature, knowing that you need to do it, like inspired to do it, but also nagged to do it. A frustration of sorts that's trying to push you forward into maturity or taking life more seriously. Could also be a frustrating time for you at work. Your natal suns are in a long-term square to Chiron. This long-term square to Chiron can make you feel depleted or defeated, like everything is always so difficult. Why is everything so rough for me? Why is it always got to be an extra challenge? Because you guys are in a training period right now. You guys are being trained to really be able to level up and be so much stronger. And these energies aren't going to last forever, maybe through the next year, year and a half. And you will come out on the other side actually prepared and ready to take on the world. Just an FYI. Also, long-term, a trine to Jupiter. This is a time for you to expand through education, through learning different things about different people, different cultures. Networking is a very good idea while your natal sun is trine to Jupiter. This is definitely a time for expansion and growth for you. There's an optimism here underlying all of the hardship that I think will get you through this and actually advance you a great deal. Let's go on to Capricorn 3s. So if you know that your natal sun is between 20 and 29 degrees Capricorn, it's in the third group of 10 degrees, third decan of Capricorn. This correlates to birthdays between January 12th and the 22nd. You guys got a little bit of a preview because Pluto is conjunct your natal suns, and this is a time of major shift and change for you. You're also square to the north and south node, which means you'll start to sense and feel like you're turning a corner with your likes and your tastes and what you used to be interested in. You're going to find yourself being drawn to something that a few years ago you wouldn't even cared about or you didn't like at all. Different foods might start having different, like, tasting better to you. You might start liking or disliking things that once upon a time used to be what you identified yourself with. You know, like, oh, I'm somebody who loves the ocean, and now for some reason you're drawn to the mountains. There's that energy of turning a corner, and you're going to start to see and experience yourself actually kind of, you know, shifting your preferences because you're growing up. You're turning a corner in your life. And because your natal suns are conjunct to Pluto, this is going to be permanent. This is going to be a metamorphosis. You also have a long-term trine to Uranus, which means innovation and creation and finding and discovering and supporting your authentic personality and identity through innovation and being creative in an ingenuitive way. This week, your natal suns are square to Mars, trine to Mercury, and quincunx to Venus. This is a lot of interaction with the inner planets. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of stimulation here. Square to Mars, watch out for accidents and injuries. When natal suns are square to Mars, this leads to impulsivity and trying things, especially physical things that are way out of your capacity. It's definitely time to make yourself, over the next 2 weeks, because that's how long this will last, count to 10 before you react, especially around that full moon, 28th, 29th, and 30th. Very highly volatile, explosive energy. Just an FYI. We also have a trine to Mercury, which means you will be able to communicate very well, very smoothly. There will be a grace about what you say that will offer clarity to people. So it's so important for you to use your words over your actions this week. I cannot stress that enough. And then we have that semi-square to Venus. Semi-square to Venus is like a spur in the side that's gonna be agitating you to make you change, want you to change, or want you to realize something about your value systems, about maybe the way you're spending money, and maybe even about your relationship. So if it's really agitating you, your relationship is agitating you, it is going to be extremely important to use your words as opposed to your actions, because they could be very angry and aggressive actions. Just an FYI. This could also mean you need to release a lot of sexual tension, but that has to be done in an appropriate way as well. Just an FYI. I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and if you do, please recommend this video to other people that you know would like it by sharing it. Give it a thumbs up, and definitely come on over to Born Without Boundaries Tarot and enjoy your tarot card messages. Let's move on to Aquarius. So, Aquarius, I gotta write this down more. I do. Aquarius. The big stuff that's happening in Aquarius is nothing. There's no real big stuff that's happening in the zodiac sign of Aquarius. Kind of not a lot going on there right now. But we do have a lot going on with your ruling dignitaries. Your modern ruler is Uranus, so we'll start with that. Uranus is in a long-term trine to Pluto, but this week it is square to Venus, trine to Mercury, and semi-square to the full moon. This is going to be a major disruption in your sense of self. You will want to legitimately really start expressing yourself in a unique, creative way. You will definitely feel like you need changes or shifts, or to talk to different people or understand different things. This is brilliant freaking energy for you guys. Brilliant energy. And ultimately, I think, a very experimental kind of vibe that's going on with you. Saturn is, let's go back. Saturn is largely it's not strongly aspected by anything right now. There is a semi-square to Chiron, which can be impacting how you feel about who you are, how you feel about, like almost feeling like, oh, I'm never going to be good enough for anything. Like anything I do will never be good enough. And that is kind of, being a semi-square might be what's driving you and pushing you, but it doesn't give you a lot of rest, and it can be very wearing on your self-esteem. So it's something to take note of. Later on this week, Saturn, by the end of this week, Saturn will be in a loose opposition to Venus and a loose trine to Mars conjunct the South Node. This is almost like we're starting to lean back on or fall back on the stuff that we used to do because we need to right now. Things are really stressful. It can be an actual very wholesome healing quality as long as we don't get stuck there. But it's not a long, Mars trine Saturn is not a long-term trine. It's over the next couple of weeks, really. So maybe over the next couple of weeks, what we need to do is focus on the stuff that we know, doing the stuff that we're frickin' good at. And that is important, and we should take that seriously. Just an FYI, just let it be. Let it be for now. As that opposition to Venus increases at the end of this week and then definitely into next week, there is a sense of maybe being too serious when it comes to our money, or experiencing a lot of financial restriction, or feeling like we're not appreciated for how we look or how we're vibing. So there is that sense of this is coming, and that's trying to then be almost inspire us to lean more on what we know we're good at, to find some success at. And maybe that's because we need to revisit some of that stuff. We need to revisit what we did in the past that worked, because we are prone as a species to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And change is, not only is change good, it is necessary for life. But sometimes we don't need to change the whole fucking thing. And so many times the easiest solution is get rid of it all. And that is not the truth. And I think that this is, over the next couple of weeks, a time of discernment when it comes to Saturnian energy, to discern what is working, what is not. I don't have to throw out all aspects of who I am. I can keep the ones that are still helping me. So Aquarius, if your natal suns are between 0 and 9 degrees Aquarius, you are Aquarius ones, because your natal sun is located in the first 10 degrees or the first decan of Aquarius. Your natal suns are sextile to the full moon. So this is going to be a beautiful opportunity, catharsis, and maybe really sexually charged energy for you guys. 28th, 29th, 30th, the full moon is at its fullest, early hours of the morning on the 29th. This is explosive energy, but in a way that could bring a lot of opportunity and optimism. Please manifest. I'm going to attach the video above to the manifest with fire moons. It'll give you some strategies to volumize or amplify your manifestations to make them more impactful and effective. But that is a time when you really have to use that energy of that full moon. You're also trine to the sun, which is going to bring an ease of how you feel about yourself, how good you feel, how certain and secure you are of what your passions are, of what you believe in, of who you are. This is a time when you will feel really comfortable in your own skin. You also have a semi-square to Venus, which means there can be some complications or frustrations or frustrating stimulations when it comes to your sex drive, or some frustrations when it comes to just your value systems and what you're attracted to. Your natal suns will also be, or in a long term, trine to Uranus and conjunction to Pluto if you're at the cusps. So the cusp, I'm sorry, I didn't give you your birth dates. Your birth dates for Aquarius 1 would be January Aquarians. So January, say, 22nd through the 31st would be Aquarius 1s. Those of you born on the Capricorn cusp, so 21st, 22nd, 23rd birthdays, you guys, your natal suns are trine to Uranus and conjunct to Pluto still. So this is a very dynamic and authentic, like finding your authentic self dynamic over the next couple of years, or at least over the next year for you. With this connected to the quincunx to Venus, the sextile to the full moon, the trine to the sun. It's very stimulated, arousing energy. It's inspired by really this dynamic of I want to be who I am completely and authentically. And now I know who that is, and I'm starting to feel good about it, so I know which directions I need to go in. So it could be very clarifying energy this week for you as well. Let's go on to Aquarius 2s. If you know that your natal sun is located between 10 and 19 degrees Aquarius, it's in the second decan. So you guys are Aquarius 2s. This correlates to Aquarius birthdays between, say, February 1st and the 10th, around there, 10th, 11th. Your natal suns are in long-term aspects. Nothing truly dynamic with the inner planets right now, but they're semi-square to Neptune, sextile to Chiron, and square to Jupiter. So this is trying to make you make informed expansion and growth, knowing that you need a change, but a challenge. Like, you're not going to lower your standards. You want to make things different and keep those standards high. That sextile to Chiron is 100% being inspired by the shit you went through and wanting to make the world a better place because of it. So that's actually been long term for you guys, and it's definitely been impacting you. I can see it in the Aquarians that I know. The square to Jupiter right now can be stimulating energy and optimistic energy, but a little bit overly optimistic. This could make you stretch beyond what you're ready for. So it's definitely good to count up, like, how much experience do I really have? And yes, I want to try things that I haven't to grow, but to think that makes you an immediate expert is not a good idea. Just an FYI. And that semi-square to Neptune can be a little bit distracting as well. So with the semi-square to Neptune and the square to Jupiter, you could really be overestimating your personal value. And I don't mean to say that to try to encourage low self-esteem. I just want to make you aware of a potential arrogance that you may be developing based on things that aren't actually real, or stuff that you haven't achieved as well as you think you've achieved it. So really keeping those high standards and being precise, and actually even getting second opinions as to, did I really do well? Is this really, really at the place that I want it to be, is important right now. It may mean that you may have to take criticism and you may not be as open to it as you used to be, especially constructive criticism, I mean. And if criticism is starting to rub you more and more, it's because of these energies. Thinking that, I don't need criticism, I already got it, I'm already perfect. And that's not the case, just an FYI. But ultimately, this is about wanting to broaden and expand and clear up the inconsistencies and raise the standards and make sure that other people's lives are improved in the process as well as yours. So it's long-term goals, long-term over the next year. Let's go on to Aquarius 3. If you know that your natal sun is between 20 and 29 degrees Aquarius, it's in the third group of 10 degrees or decan of Aquarius. So you guys are Aquarius 3s. This correlates to birthdays between February 11th and the 20th, in and around those dates. I know sometimes that's Pisces energy as well, depending on the year, but in and around those dates. Your natal suns, especially if you're born around the 18th or 19th, maybe 20th, are conjunct to Saturn, but only if you're born around the 18th, 19th. They're conjunct to Saturn, which is in the very first degree of Pisces right now. So the conjunction to Saturn is going to give you a more almost mature sensibility about you. You're going to take life and yourself, not in an arrogant way, but it's like growing up. It's like maturing, and that's over the next year. So you really kind of find yourself when that happens. Find who you are, what you are, and how you've built yourself. That'll become very clear to you. Excuse me. For the next couple of months, your natal suns are also sextile to the North Node and trine the South Node, which means you are looking toward the future. You want to try things outside of your norm in order to help you grow because you are so comfortable with the skin that you are in. This is really great energy for growth and for learning. We also have a long-term square to Uranus, which is about anything is going to really, that threatens your authenticity or threatens your individuality is really going to get to you. And so that trigger can easily be plucked over the next year or so because you really want to stake your claim to being your own unique self. And with that conjunction to Saturn, there's also that grounding energy of, well, I'm going to figure this out and take it seriously and become my full authentic self. So this is a really, I think, solid energy for you. But this week, your natal suns are trine to Mars, which means there's a grace and an elegance to how you move and maybe even to how your body feels, a time for even healing physically. This is a great time to be physical. It's almost necessary. And then we have, by the end of the week, right now, your natal suns are in opposition to Venus. This could mean that in some ways you really want to mix things up in relationships because you have that square to Uranus too. And that your desires, what you once were pleasured by, it's not the same. And so experimentation is very necessary to keep the love alive right now, as well as respecting or having a partner that respects your space and your ability to try different things, maybe on your own. I don't mean that you have to step outside of your relationship. I just mean that you need to feel like you're not confined by it. Because if you are, that will really start to trigger you right now and could really break apart your relationships. In terms of finances, this could be really agitating energy as well. This sense of too much restrictions, and something's got to give, something's got to change. And we could be seeing that throughout the world right now as well, since everybody's really experiencing the Venus opposition to Saturn by the end of this week, but you'll especially feel that majorly. And toward the end of this week, it'll get even greater. Something's got to give here because it's just too restrictive. You let me know in the comments below how you're experiencing this energy, and please remember to share this with your friends. Share this with people that you know would enjoy it too. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to come over to bornwithoutboundariestarot.com, Born Without Boundaries Tarot, for your week ahead tarot card reading, guys. I love you, and I'll talk to you next week. All right, Pisces. Let's go on to Pisces. You guys have two ruling dignitaries, just like Aquarius. I say that because Neptune was, in terms of human history, recently discovered. And so Jupiter still very much has an impact on you. I think I've never met anybody more than Sagittarius that like to travel more than Pisces. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that's Jupiter. Jupiter wants you to get out into the world and explore. It's not just about books. It's about interacting with people to be able to grow yourself and grow your personal experiences. So, yeah, you're still very impacted. So we're going to go over Jupiter and Neptune, and we're going to start with what's going on in Pisces. So in the zodiac sign of Pisces, you have Saturn at 1 degrees Pisces. It'll actually retrograde all the way back to 0 degrees Pisces, but it'll never actually exit Pisces. It's in Pisces for the next almost 3 years. Almost 2 years at this point, 2.5 years at this point. We also have Neptune, which is your ruling dignitary, Neptune, your modern ruler, at 25 degrees Pisces right now. So Saturn is conjuncting those of you born at the beginning of Pisces season, and those of you born at the end of Pisces season are conjuncting Neptune. I can't think of more diametrically opposite energies than Saturn and Neptune. So very different experiences between those of you born at the beginning of Pisces season and those of you born at the end. Very different perspectives and very different interactions. And that's why it's so important to not listen to traditional horoscopes, because they fucking suck. Just an FYI. So what's going on with Jupiter? Jupiter is at 14 degrees Taurus, And it is largely unaspected this week. Now let's get into what the fucking unaspected planet is, because a lot of astrologers don't talk about it. But unaspected planets are volatile, and they are, well, they're surprises. And Jupiter is big, so you're going to feel it. This is a sense of all of a sudden you may surprise yourself. You may surprise yourself with your reaction to something or your interest in something, right? You may get a surprise. It could be good, it could be bad, but it'll be too big to notice. Just an FYI, by the end of the week, it is going to be in a Sesequic quadrate to Mercury, while Mercury is in opposition to Neptune. So this could mean we're getting ahead of ourselves or starting to speak out of our asses or getting involved in promises that don't really have much weight or depth when it comes to reality. Just an FYI, something for you to be aware of. Maybe, especially those of you... especially those of you conjunct to Neptune, so Pisces 3s, speaking out of your ass or talking major bullshit might be a little bit too easy for you pretty soon. And that's because Mercury is moving, right? Jupiter is pretty much not moving that fast. What's going on with Neptune? Well, it's at 25 degrees Pisces, and it is conjunct to Pisces 3s. So those of you born between... basically March 12th to the 22nd, in and around there. Your natal suns are in opposition to Mercury, so that's a lot of talking shit this week. Neptune is in opposition to Mercury. That's distraction, and that's unclear or misrepresented information. So it's definitely something to be wary of. You don't want to participate in that, but you could also be more susceptible for falling for it. So please do check your sources this week. And then we have a long-term sextile to Pluto and sextile to Uranus, and that's multiple years, right? And so this is long-term change and shift to humanity at large. Major, especially technological breakthroughs that will change human existence. It just will. It does. It's happened before. And then we have current quincunx to Mars and quincunx to the South Node, because the South Node and Mars are conjunct this week. This could be agitation. This could be getting agitated that you're still stuck where you always were because you're good at it, and that's great, but it's starting to frustrate you because you want different challenges in your life. And that's where you look to your North Node and try to get uncomfortable in order to grow. So let's go break everything down into the decans, shall we? If you know that your natal sun is between 0 and 9 degrees Pisces, you are a Pisces 1 because your natal sun is in the first decan of Pisces. This correlates to those Pisces who are born February, basically say February 19th, 20th through the 28th, 29th, depending on what year it is. Your natal suns are conjunct to Saturn. So that means personal growth, development, maturation, and responsibility over the next year, really coming into who you've decided you are. And then we have a quincunx to the sun this week, which means that this week can be quite stimulating energy. Your passions could be quite stimulating, but also frustrating in terms of how you feel about who you are, how you see yourself, self-esteem in general. Could be the spur in your side to get you to wake up and realize something that you need to pay attention to about the person you're becoming. Just an FYI. Pisces 2s. If you know that your natal sun is between 10 and 19 degrees Pisces, you guys are Pisces 2. That correlates to birthdays, say, March 1st through the 11th. Okay, so Pisces 2s. Your natal suns are semi-square to the North Node, which means you're being agitated by your discomfort zone, but it's also a curiosity. And you're wanting to try things, and it's frustrating you into trying them, but you should. You're starting to get more interested in things that you never were, and that's just growth and development. That's over the next couple of months. You also have a sextile to Jupiter. So that is actually very fortunate energy. It's a very abundant energy, and it's a lot of opportunities coming at you for expansion and growth. It's definitely going to have an optimistic appeal to you, and people will, be more open to you with this energy around you because it's very optimistic and fortunate. Let's go on to Pisces 3. So Pisces 3. Your natal suns are the ones that are conjunct to Neptune, which puts you at ground zero for the sextile to Pluto and the sextile to Uranus and dynamic changes and shifts in this world. But this week, your natal suns are also in opposition to Mercury. So especially with Neptune there, your mind is not going to be clear. You are going to be easily distracted, maybe even in some ways more tired than you normally are. It is really important for you guys to give yourself the sleep that you need, the rest that you need. It's really important for you to get second opinions on things because you can be easily distracted and easily bamboozled. Just an FYI, and easily misinterpret information. Definitely not a good time to sign important contracts for you guys, especially because Neptune is conjunct your natal sun. Do not do it this week. Put it off till next week. Put the interviews off to next week. Put the job searching off to next. This is a time for dreaming and understanding what your dreams are trying to tell you, not a time for the real world or seriousness. And I know we all got to go to work. We all got to go to our jobs. But give yourself an extra break period. Be sure you take that lunch hour. Maybe go to a restroom, a nap room. Go nap in your fucking car. Give yourself the break because you're going to need to refuel a lot more than normal now. Just an FYI. And then your natal suns are also quincunx to Venus and quincunx to Mars. So there can be a lot of sexual tension that's going on, and a need to release that or a conduit to release that would be very helpful for you, especially around this full moon. Just an FYI. I love you guys like crazy, and I hope that you love this video. If you know anybody who you know would like it too, please share it with them and give it a thumbs up before you log off and go to Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your week ahead tarot card reading. I love you so much, guys. See you in the videos.